Now, the remarkable thing here is that these are students who have disengaged from learning. These are students where other literacy will describe them as failures, as dropouts, people who have unplugged. This particular program has multiple generations of families re-engaged back into learning. Such to the point, between 80 and 90% of students who enrolled into a bachelor's program in this particular school have pathwayed out of the ACE funding, this particular pathway of learning. So the argument here is that if you provide things in a particular context, it will work. And the key element that some of these students describe is that what they bring into the classroom is of value. They have a contribution to play within their learning. Their worldview, their understanding. The delivery of these programs are built and taught around the marae. And it's making the distinction, it's not marae-based learning. And not to attack marae-based learning, but simply, at times, the marae and the wharekai are just simply used as another facility to teach in, to teach the same stuff we teach within the classrooms. This is more about a transformational shift of looking at the community, where it's the community that are engaged and move. The evaluation of these programs are done by the elders, the kaumātua, the korau, the kuia of the marae, the chairperson of the marae, as well as the learners. So each of these particular people have an input into how well this program is running and operating. So the point here is just simply to make that if you provide it in a particular context, it will work. Now, again, just taking this comment from the late Wiremu, who was a senior staff member we were very sad to lose, was it the end of last year? The end of last year, who ultimately died as a result of cancer, but was, even in his dying days, was editing his master's thesis, which again is a very powerful document that he's left behind at Awanuia. First, now I might be wrong, stand corrected, first master's thesis that I have seen that has been both written in Māori and English. Māori on one side, English on the other. And this gentleman just describing his worldviews, his understanding. Now, his comment, again, this is taken from the report that's going to be issued this evening. His comment was Māori literacy is more than simply reading. Okay? So he's alluding to literacies, which sits very nicely and easily within a particular worldview. Now, I've taken that concept from the korau, who made the analogy of you've got peacocks arriving and you've got tui sitting there. And that was his analogy of non-Māori and Māori coming together. And if we looked at opened up a dictionary, you have a look at the definition of this term epistemology, you'll find the explanation goes something similar to it's gaining an understanding by the five senses. The interesting thing within a Māori worldview, the term rongo covers just about all of those senses. Okay, rongo I can hear, rongo I can feel, rongo I can taste, rongo I can sense. So to me, around this notion of rongo is that one of the key elements when we start looking around what it is to learn, teach and engage. And some of the literacies that this korau Wiremu was alluding to. Now again, taking that concept from this korau and looking at our particular language we use within Māori, the context between the language, the environment and the people must be made. Within a tūhoi context, the word ngahere is the term we use to describe forest, bush. Now, again, if we were to break the word down, we have two elements to it. Ngā, simply meaning plural. Here is the connections. So what it's doing is it's describing connections. And then when you look at what's in the forest within a tūhoi worldview, a tainui worldview, generally a Māori worldview, are our ancestors who came before us. Genealogy goes all the way back through from where we are. There are 42 generations from me, back to rangi and papa. From rangi and papa there was tāne, and from tāne came the things that stand within the forest. The rimu and kaiaka, there you see standing here. So the term for forest, simply describing the connections, is reminding us as people we have a connection to that particular space and place. Again, looking at this term kauri, for the tree you see in the photo there, again, two parts to the word, ka, parako, uri, relationship. So it's simply reminding us that we are actually related to these particular things. And the translation of kauri is simply to be related. Super Jack within Māori is called pirita. And just one of my bugbears here. You'll see it written in many, many books. It's called kareao. Kareao was actually the berry, hence why I put the photo of the berry in there. The vine is called pirita. And again, if you have a look at how the pirita grows, it starts from this particular point, grows along, grabs onto a particular tree here, takes root. From that particular tree it grows, grabs onto that particular tree. And what it does is it collectively pulls us together. Hence the name pirita, pulling us closer together. So if we look at these terms that are sitting within this particular Māori worldview, understand the context, it begins to show there is a particular worldview that is out there that we need to make relevant and connect to our particular students who are engaged into learning. Charles Royal, when, again, quoted from the document for this afternoon, his experience when he looked at learning drew the analogy of his connection of his genealogy back to a particular wharenui, to his house of learning. Taking the example from a wharenui, the only key thing I'll make on this particular slide, within the particular Māori worldview, in the Tūhoe worldview, and fairly common across other worldviews, other iwi worldview, we differ between 10 and 12, whether it's 10 levels or layers above us, or whether it was 12. Some it's 10, some it's 12. However, the utmost of those levels was a place called Te Toyo Ngārangi, which is where the creator within Te Ao Māori was residing. Now, after the creation of this particular world had been finished with the efforts of Tāne Nuiarangi, Tāwhiri Mātea, Tūmatauenga and co, word came down for one of these people to make the journey through to Te Toyo Ngārangi to secure the baskets of learning, baskets of knowledge. So the world, the pathway that Tāne took was by going through this place through the pouako. And what the pouako is, in the old houses that we used to have, right where that central pole is coming down, there's a pouako manawa, at the base of it used to be a fire. And just to the side of the tāhuhu, the ridge pole, was a hole to let the smoke out of. Now, when Tāne, before he went on his journey to acquire the baskets of knowledge, the first question he asked was, where are we going to store these things when we have them? So he made his journey to the first level above us, rangi nui tamakurangi, and took the prototype from my ancestor, Hinepu Kohurangi, a house, brought that back down to this particular world, and created the wharenui on this particular world. When he did that, it created the wharenui to each layer and level of these worldviews. So the pathway he went from this particular world through the door on this particular world, Pautoko Manawa, up through the pouako, and as he emerged out the top, he emerged into the world, the world that was above this particular world, through the wharenui there, and made his way until he ascended to Te Toyo Ngārangi. He acquired the baskets of knowledge, came back down through the pouako, down onto this particular worldview, and where the baskets of knowledge are stored into the wharenui. Now the key thing here is around the term pouako. Pouako is also the term that is used to describe the fontanelle cap when a child is born. And it's through that fontanelle cap within Te Ao Māori is where all of the learning occurs. So the pathway of learning into this particular world came through the pouako. The pathway of learning into a particular child goes through the similar pathway through that pouako as a child is born.